Hello, my friend. Welcome. Today, I want to tell you a story. It is not just a story about things. It is not just a story about a boy. It is not just a story about shoes. It is bigger than that. It is about life. It is about family. It is about love. It is about memory. It is about the lessons that stay in our hearts forever. And yes, it begins with something very small. It begins with a pair of old shoes. At first, you may smile. You may think, shoes? Really? Why shoes? Why not something more important? But wait. These shoes are not normal. These shoes are not simple. They are not just for walking. They are not just for covering feet. They are full of history. They are full of pain. They are full of strength. They are full of love. They carry a secret message. They carry a father's story. And today, you will hear that story. Listen slowly. Take your time. Do not rush. Feel the words. Feel the pauses. When I say, old shoes, do not just see shoes in your mind. See a life. See a man who walked miles and miles in those shoes. See his hands tired from work. See his face smiling in the sun. See his family waiting for him at home. These shoes are not just leather. They are not just fabric. They are a symbol. A symbol of something bigger. A symbol of sacrifice. A symbol of love. A symbol of what parents give for their children, even when they have nothing for themselves. This is why I tell you, listen carefully. Because this story is not only about the boy in the story. It is also about you. It is about me. It is about every person who has received something from their parents. Maybe not shoes. Maybe something else. But the meaning is the same. As you listen, you will also learn. You will learn English. Step by step. Word by word. Sentence by sentence. Just like the boy will learn life step by step, you will learn this language step by step. At first, it feels hard. At first, you may think, I cannot do this. It is too heavy. It is too big. But remember the shoes. They were also too big for the boy. They were heavy. But he kept walking. And so can you. So, listen with your heart. Repeat if you need. Pause if you need. This is not just learning English. This is learning values. This is learning life. And when we finish, you will not only have new words in your head. You will also have a lesson in your heart. So let us begin. The boy. The father. The old shoes. 3 simple things. But together, they make one powerful story. A story that will make you think. A story that will make you feel. A story that may even bring tears to your eyes. Are you ready? Then let us walk together into this story. Step by step. Word by word. Like walking in old shoes. Once, in a small town far away, there lived a boy. The boy was not rich. He was not special in the eyes of the world. His family had little money, but they had something greater. They had love. They had care. They had each other. Their house was small, made of simple walls, a simple roof, and simple furniture. But inside that house was warmth. Inside that house was laughter. Inside that house was kindness. The boy loved his mother. He loved his father even more, because his father was his hero. Not a hero like in the movies. Not a hero with a sword or a cape. But a hero with strong hands, a tired body, and a gentle smile. His father worked from morning until night. He worked in the fields, in the market, in the streets, wherever he could earn a little money to keep his family alive. Every day, the father worked, and every day, the boy watched him. The boy saw something that never changed. He saw the same shoes on his father's feet. Brown shoes. Old shoes. Worn shoes. The shoes had scratches. The shoes had holes. The shoes were thin at the bottom. When the father walked, sometimes the boy could see the ground through the sole. But still, the father wore them. Day after day. Week after week. Year after year. The boy sometimes asked himself, why? Why does father wear the same shoes? Why not buy new ones? He saw other fathers in the town. They had better shoes. They had strong, shiny shoes. Some even had more than one pair. But his father had only one. Only those old, brown, broken shoes. And still, his father never complained. He never said, I need more. He only said, we need food. We need books for you. We need light in the house. For him, the family was first. For him, his shoes were last. The boy did not fully understand this. He was young. He thought shoes were simple. Just shoes. Just things you wear. But when he looked at his father's face, he felt something deeper. He saw the tired eyes. He saw the lines on his father's forehead. He saw the sweat on his father's skin. And yet, he also saw love. He also saw peace. He also saw pride. His father never spoke much about himself. He only spoke about his family. He only spoke about the boy's future. Study hard, he would say. Learn. Grow. Be better than me. The boy would nod. He would promise. But still, every time he looked at those shoes, his heart filled with questions. Why not new ones? Why hold on to old ones? Do they mean something? Or do we just not have money? The boy did not know. Not yet. But he was about to find out one day. A day that would change his life forever. The boy grew little by little. Each year, he became taller, stronger, and smarter. But each year, something stayed the same. His father's shoes. Always the same pair. Always the same brown color. Always the same holes in the leather. The boy's eyes often went down to the ground when he walked beside his father. He would see the worn-out shoes, covered in dust from the road, covered in mud from the fields, wet from the rain, dry from the sun. He wondered, how long can these shoes last? How can father keep walking in them every day? And then he would look up. He would see his father's strong back, bent but not broken. He would see his father's hands, rough but ready. He would see his father's smile, tired but warm. And the boy would stop his questions for a while. Because somehow, even with those old shoes, his father kept walking forward. One day, the boy asked again, with a little more courage in his voice. Father, your shoes are broken. Why don't you buy new ones? Everyone else has new shoes. Why not you? The father looked down at his shoes. He smiled gently. He said, My son, these shoes are enough. They take me where I need to go. They help me do my work. They are old, yes. But they are strong, like me. And even if they are broken, I still walk. New shoes are not important. You are important. The boy listened. He wanted to understand. But part of him still did not. How could something so old, so weak, still be called strong? How could his father care so little for himself and so much for the boy? The boy looked at the shoes again. They were ugly to his young eyes. But in his father's eyes, they were not ugly at all. They were enough. More than enough. At school, the boy sometimes felt embarrassed. Other children would laugh. They would whisper, Look at his father's shoes. So old, so broken. The boy felt pain in his heart. He wanted to defend his father. He wanted to shout, "You don't understand." But he stayed quiet. He did not yet have the words. He did not yet have the strength. Instead, he walked home slowly, thinking. When he entered the house, he saw his father's shoes by the door. And in that moment, something inside him changed. He looked at them differently. He did not just see holes and scratches. He saw miles of walking. He saw days of work. He saw nights of sacrifice. He saw love that was too big to measure. Still, the boy was young. His heart felt the truth, but his mind could not explain it. Not yet. The lesson of the shoes was waiting. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for the day the boy would finally understand. The days went on. Seasons changed. The boy grew older, and his father grew weaker. The father still worked, still walked, still wore those same shoes every day. The boy could see the weight on his father's shoulders. When the sun was hot, sweat covered his father's face. When the rain was cold, water entered the holes in the shoes. The boy wanted to help. He wanted to carry the heavy bags from the market. But his father would shake his head. "Not yet, my son. Your work now is to learn. Your work now is to grow. My work is to carry. My work is to walk." The boy felt a mix of pride and sadness. Pride, because his father was strong. Sadness, because he could see the pain in every step. At night, when his father took off the shoes and placed them by the door, the boy sometimes touched them quietly. He felt the rough leather. He felt the hard, thin sole. He thought to himself, "One day, these shoes will break. But father will not stop. He will walk, even if his feet touch the ground." But life has a way of changing suddenly. One morning, the boy woke up and saw his father still lying in bed. His father was coughing. His body was weak. He could not get up. The boy's mother tried to help him, but his father's strength was gone. Day after day, his father stayed in bed. The shoes were no longer on his feet. They sat quietly in the corner, waiting. The boy sat beside his father and held his hand. "Father," he whispered, "you must get better. You must walk again. Your shoes are waiting." His father smiled, weak but kind. "My son," he said softly, "my shoes have walked a long way. Maybe they are ready to rest." Tears filled the boy's eyes. He did not want to hear those words. He wanted his father to walk forever. But the boy could not change what was happening. Slowly, his father's strength faded. Slowly, his voice grew quiet. And one night, under the sound of the crickets outside, his father closed his eyes. He never opened them again. The house felt empty. The boy felt lost. His father had always been there, walking, working, smiling. Now, there was only silence. Friends and neighbors came to the funeral. They said kind words. They gave food. They hugged the family. But when everyone left, the small house was quiet again. The boy walked to his father's room. He saw the bed. He saw the tools. And then, in the corner, he saw the shoes. They looked different now. They were not just old shoes anymore. They were the last thing his father had left behind. The boy bent down and picked them up. They were heavy. Not just heavy in weight, but heavy with memory. Heavy with love. Heavy with sacrifice. The boy held them against his chest and began to cry. "These shoes," he whispered through his tears, "they carried my father's life. Every step, every mile, every day, these shoes walked with him. And now they are here, with me." For many days, the boy kept the shoes close. He placed them beside his bed at night. He looked at them when he woke up. He touched them when he felt sad. The shoes became like a friend, like a piece of his father that was still alive. But one morning, the boy felt something new in his heart. He thought, maybe I should try them. Maybe I should walk in them. Maybe I should see what my father felt. The boy put the shoes on his feet. They were too big. His toes did not reach the end. His heels slipped inside. But he tied the laces anyway. He stood up. The shoes felt heavy. He took one step. Then another. Each step was hard. The shoes made him stumble. But the boy did not stop. With every step, he thought of his father. He thought, this is what father felt. This is what father carried. This is how father walked. And even though the shoes did not fit, the boy felt closer to his father than ever before. At first, the boy only wore the shoes inside the house. He walked from room to room. He felt their weight. He felt their story. But soon, he wanted more. He wanted to wear them outside. He wanted to walk on the same roads his father had walked. He wanted to feel the same stones, the same dirt, the same paths. So, one morning, he put on the shoes and stepped outside. The neighbors saw him. Some whispered. Some shook their heads. Why is he wearing those old shoes? They are too big. They are broken. They are ugly. But the boy did not care. Every step was like a lesson. Every step was like a memory. Every step was like walking beside his father again. He walked to the market. He walked to the fields. He walked to the river. The shoes made his feet hurt. But his heart felt strong. He thought, these shoes are teaching me. They are heavy, but they are full of strength. My father's strength. And maybe, if I keep walking, I will find that strength too. The boy began to wear the shoes every day. To school. To the market. Even when people laughed at him, he wore them proudly. They said, why don't you get new shoes? Why are you walking in those old things? The boy answered quietly, because they are not just shoes. They are my father's story. Some did not understand. Some laughed even more. But the boy kept walking. With every step, he felt his father beside him. When his feet hurt, he remembered how his father's feet must have hurt. When the shoes filled with dust, he remembered the fields where his father worked. When the rain made the shoes wet, he remembered the nights when his father came home tired and soaked. And slowly, the boy began to grow stronger. His heart grew braver. His mind grew wiser. He began to understand what sacrifice really meant. He began to understand what love really meant. One afternoon, after school, the boy's friend laughed at him. Why do you wear those shoes? They are ugly. You look poor. The boy paused. He looked down at the shoes. Then he looked up with a calm face. He said softly, yes, they are ugly. Yes, they are poor. But they are also rich. Rich with sacrifice. Rich with love. Rich with memory. His friend did not understand. He laughed again and walked away. The boy stood alone, but he was not ashamed. He whispered to himself, I am proud. These shoes carried my father. Now they carry me. One day, they will carry me to my dreams. That night, as he cleaned the dirt from the shoes, he felt tears fall again. But this time, they were not only tears of sadness. They were also tears of strength. The boy realized that the shoes were not making him weak. They were making him strong. They were building him, step by step. Soon, the boy began to see changes in himself. He worked harder in school. He studied longer at night. He remembered his father's words, study hard. Learn. Be better than me. When he felt tired, he looked at the shoes beside his bed. They seemed to speak, do not stop. Keep going. When he failed in class, he looked at the shoes again. They seemed to whisper, failure is not the end. Walk again. And so, the boy learned persistence. He learned patience. He learned that true strength is not about never falling. It is about standing up again and again, even when your shoes are broken. His classmates did not see what was happening inside him. They only saw old shoes. But inside, the boy was becoming a man. A man of courage. A man of gratitude. A man who would one day honor his father's sacrifice. Life was not easy. The boy's family still had little money. He often went hungry. His clothes were torn. His books were second-hand. And still, he wore the same old shoes. Sometimes he thought about giving up. Sometimes he wanted to throw the shoes away. But then he would hear his father's voice in his heart, "My son, you are important. You must keep walking." And the boy would breathe deeply, stand tall, and take another step. People around him did not understand. They thought he was foolish. But the boy knew the truth. The shoes were teaching him the most important lesson of all: strength comes from struggle. Without struggle, there is no growth. Without pain, there is no lesson. Without sacrifice, there is no love. The boy started helping his mother. He worked after school. He carried heavy bags. He sold small things at the market. His feet hurt more every day, but his heart grew stronger every night. When customers laughed at his shoes, he smiled. When children pointed and mocked, he stayed calm. Inside, he repeated his silent promise, "Father, I will not be ashamed. I will walk with your shoes until I can walk with my own." His mother sometimes told him, "My son, you do not have to wear them every day." But the boy only shook his head. "Mother, they are not only shoes. They are Father's story. And I want to carry it." His mother's eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing more. She knew her son's heart was growing into something special. One evening, the boy sat by the river. He put the shoes beside him and dipped his feet in the cool water. He looked at the sky and spoke quietly. "Father, today I worked hard. I carried bags until my back hurt. I studied until my eyes closed. I am tired, Father. Very tired. But when I look at your shoes, I remember you. You were tired too. But you never stopped. You never gave up. Father, I will not give up either." He placed the shoes back on his feet. The soles were thinner now. The holes were bigger. But the boy stood up straight. He walked home slowly, step by step. And in every step, he carried not just his body, but also his father's dream. At school, the boy's teacher noticed him. She saw how he worked harder than others. She saw how he stayed late to study. She saw the shoes on his feet and understood their story. One day, she said to him, "My boy, those shoes are old, but your spirit is new. Do not stop. You will go far." The boy bowed his head and said, "Thank you, teacher. I will try." That night, he cleaned the shoes carefully, almost with love. He whispered, "Father, someone believes in me. Just like you believed in me. I will not fail you." The shoes were cracked and weak, but in his eyes, they looked like gold. The boy kept walking, studying, and working. Slowly, his results in school became better. He learned new words, new numbers, new ideas. Every time he wanted to quit, he looked at the shoes. He remembered the sacrifices behind them. "These shoes gave me food," he told himself. "These shoes gave me books. These shoes gave me a future. I must honor them." His friends could not understand. But the boy no longer cared. He did not need everyone to understand. He only needed to walk. Step by step. Day by day. In old shoes, but with a new heart. One morning, as he walked to school, his feet hurt badly. The shoes were almost completely broken now. The sole had holes. The leather was torn. The boy could feel the ground under his feet. People stared. Some laughed. But the boy lifted his head high. He thought, yes, the shoes are broken. But they are still carrying me forward. And I will keep going until I cannot walk anymore. His pride was no longer in how the shoes looked. His pride was in what they meant. And with every painful step, he remembered his father's courage. That memory gave him strength to smile, even in pain. That evening, after a long day, the boy placed the shoes beside his bed. He sat quietly and looked at them. He thought about the journey so far. He thought about the pain, the laughter, the tears. He thought about his father's sacrifice and his own growing strength. He whispered, "The shoes are old. But the lesson is new. Every day, the shoes teach me something. Every day, the shoes give me power." He touched them gently, as if they were alive. Then he smiled and said, "Father, I am ready. I will not only walk. I will run. I will carry your dream further than you ever could. And when people see these shoes, they will not see shame. They will see love." The boy closed his eyes. He slept with peace in his heart. The shoes were by his side, glowing in his memory, strong in his spirit. Time passed. The boy kept studying, kept working, and kept walking in his father's shoes. Slowly, his effort began to shine. He did well in his exams. His teacher praised him. The neighbors started to notice. One day, the headmaster of his school called him and said, "You are a good student. We want to give you a scholarship." The boy could not believe it. A scholarship meant free education. It meant a chance for a better life. He ran home, still wearing the old shoes, and told his mother. She cried tears of joy. The boy looked at the shoes and whispered, "Father, your shoes carried me here. Your steps became my steps. Your dream is becoming real." The shoes were broken, but they had carried him to success. On the day of the award, the boy wore the shoes proudly. Other children wore clean clothes and new shoes, but he stood in his old pair. When his name was called, he walked to the stage. Every step felt heavy, but also strong. He could almost hear his father's voice, "Walk with strength, my son." The people clapped. The boy stood tall. He received his award with both hands. He looked down at his shoes and thought, "You are not broken. You are beautiful. You are the reason I am here." At that moment, the shoes were no longer just shoes. They were a crown. They were honor. They were proof that love and sacrifice are stronger than money and pride. That night, the boy sat with the shoes beside him. He spoke softly, like speaking to his father. "Father, I did it. I walked in your shoes. I felt your pain. I carried your struggle. But I also carried your strength. Today, people clapped for me. But the truth is, they were clapping for you. Because you walked before me. Because you showed me the way." Tears filled his eyes, but his heart felt light. He placed the shoes carefully on a small table. "From now on, these shoes will not just be old leather. They will be my reminder. Every time I look at them, I will remember to be strong, to be grateful, and to keep walking." The boy kept his promise. He worked harder than ever. He helped his mother. He studied late at night. And every time he felt tired, he looked at the shoes. They reminded him, "Do not give up." The boy began to dream bigger. He wanted to finish school. He wanted to get a good job. He wanted to help his family and honor his father's memory. The shoes became his guide. They were old, yes. They were broken, yes. But they carried something no new shoe could carry. They carried values. They carried history. They carried love. The boy thought, one day, I will no longer need to wear these shoes. But I will always carry their lesson in my heart. And so, the boy learned the great truth: old shoes may look small, but they carry big lessons. They carried his father's struggle. They carried his family's survival. They carried his own dreams. When he touched them, he felt courage. When he wore them, he felt connection. When he looked at them, he felt gratitude. The boy asked himself, what have I received from my father? Not money. Not gifts. But lessons. Lessons of hard work. Lessons of sacrifice. Lessons of love. And he realized that was more valuable than anything else. The shoes were not just shoes anymore. They were his teacher. They were his father's voice. They were his life's guide. The boy sat quietly one evening with the shoes in front of him. He looked at their broken soles, the torn leather, the tired laces. He thought about everything they had carried, his father's life, his own journey, and the dreams that were now opening before him. He whispered, old shoes may look small. Old shoes may look weak. But they carry big lessons. He reflected on how people had laughed at him, but those laughs did not matter. What mattered was the truth he had learned: love is stronger than pain, sacrifice is greater than pride, and gratitude is the key to happiness. He promised himself that no matter how far he walked in life, he would always remember the shoes that taught him to be strong. He asked himself deep questions: what do I carry from my parents? What lessons live inside me every day? He realized the answer was simple. From his father, he carried sacrifice. From his mother, he carried love. From both, he carried hope. The shoes became a mirror of these lessons. They reminded him that parents often give up their own comfort for the sake of their children. They reminded him that true value is not found in money or shiny things but in kindness, courage, and perseverance. He thought, one day, I will tell my children about these shoes. One day, I will give them lessons that cannot be bought in a shop. And he smiled, because he understood that the real inheritance from his father was not just shoes, it was wisdom. And now, dear listener, the boy's story also speaks to you. You may not have old shoes like his. You may have something else, maybe a book, maybe a memory, maybe a word from your parents or grandparents. But whatever it is, it carries lessons too. Just as the boy walked slowly, step by step, in his father's shoes, you also walk step by step in your own journey. Sometimes the road feels heavy. Sometimes the steps hurt. But remember, every step teaches you something new. Every step builds your strength. Every step prepares you for the future. This is true for life. And this is also true for learning English. Learning English is like walking in old shoes. At first, it feels uncomfortable. The words are heavy. The grammar feels strange. The sounds do not fit. You may stumble. You may want to stop. But if you keep walking, if you keep practicing, if you keep trying, then slowly it becomes easier. Just like the boy's feet grew into his father's shoes, your mind will grow into English. Do not be ashamed if you are slow. Do not feel small if you make mistakes. Every small step is progress. Every small word is growth. Remember the boy, people laughed at his shoes, but he kept walking. One day, people will see you walking with confidence in English too. So, my dear friend, what is the final lesson of the boy and his father's shoes? It is this: be grateful for what you have. Be proud of the lessons your parents gave you. Do not chase only new things. Remember the value of old things, the value of sacrifice, the value of love. Walk your journey with gratitude. And when you learn English, walk the same way, slowly, step by step, never giving up. At first, the road feels long. But with patience, with practice, and with heart, you will arrive. One day, you will stand tall, like the boy, and say, I did it. I walked the path. I learned the lesson. I found my strength. And just like him, you will discover that the shoes may be old, but the lesson is always new.